If you tuned into Donald Trump's rally in Tampa, Florida last night, you might have noticed a somewhat ubiquitous Q symbol on signs in the crowd. And if you are lucky enough not to have had to interact with this idea, let me take a moment to explain. Those Trump supporters you see waving around the letter Q printed on signs and on their T-shirts are followers of Q, a anonymous poster on the message boards 4chan and 8chan. Q claims to be sharing insider government secrets with the masses and has spawned an entire movement, QAnon, which essentially believes the entirety of the Democratic Party and much of Hollywood are conspiring and running an underground pedophile sex trafficking ring. Even Tom Hanks. And the followers of Q also believe that President Donald Trump is working secretly with the generals to expose this entire sick thing, and that the Mueller probe isn't actually investigating Donald Trump, but Robert Mueller and Donald Trump are actually investigating the Obamas and the Clintons, all of whom are wearing ankle bracelets because they've already been secretly indicted. Now, if you're hearing this for the first time, your reaction is correct. This is all insane and incoherent. It is also shockingly widespread, as evidenced by last night. And remember when Roseanne Barr tweeted about how President Trump has freed so many children held in bondage to pimps all over this world? That was a QAnon reference. Curt Schilling has linked to a pro-QAnon video on his Facebook account, and Sean Hannity retweeted a hashtag QAnon tweet this past January. The QAnon Reddit board Great Awakening has almost 50,000 subscribers. Its YouTube videos regularly get hundreds of thousands of views. It's a conspiracy theory that appears to be growing in strength, and it had its coming out party at the president's rally in Tampa last night. I want to bring in two people who have been tracking the growth of this conspiracy theory. MSNBC contributor Sam Seder, hosts the Majority Report, and Will Sommer, tech and internet reporter for the Daily Beast, who has been on this. Will, I want to start with a bite of someone at the rally sort of explaining it, because I think it shows the crazy sort of mystical cult quality of the following of this. Take a listen.
It's QAnon, the storm, the Great Awakening. This all started back when the president was meeting with military leaders back in October last year. He said, this is the calm before the storm. That launched us into what the Q team, military intelligence, most likely has been talking to all of us, letting us know what's going on behind the scenes, letting us know the covert battles that are waging between the deep state and President Trump and his military alliance.
So what do you do with that information?
Spread it. Combat the mainstream media. I mean, we're fighting a battle on all fronts here.
What do we, I don't want to get into the details of this because it really is this sort of bizarre Gnostic nonsense, but why is this thing taken hold?
So QAnon, I think you had a great summary of it. It almost presents like a counter narrative for Trump supporters who maybe aren't happy with how the administration's going, or they wanted more, like they wanted to lock her up or something like that. And so QAnon presents this whole counter narrative of all the items are like Trump's winning and Trump's taking on the deep state. And so that's, I think, why it appeals to Trump supporters.
That's interesting. It also, what I find interesting, too, about it, Will, is that, it's like the Mueller, all this news you're seeing about Mueller, which is upsetting if you support the president or think that, actually it's all going to be revealed that they're on the same team.
Exactly. It's very, take it easy, don't worry, we're taking down the deep state.
Sam, we wrestle sometimes on the show with what do you cover and what don't you, right? There's people across the entire political spectrum believe all sorts of insane things. And that is true of liberals and people on the left. I want to be clear. There's not a monopoly, but the way the right-wing ecosystem works, there's a kind of growth that this can spread to. And just to be clear, there was a dude at the Hoover Dam who was a standoff with law enforcement armed with a QAnon released the OIG report nod. This is something that has really spread, it seems to me, fairly far in that world.
Yeah, I understand the dilemma of whether you cover this. I remember an associate producer on my podcast wanted to cover Gamergate years ago, and I thought, oh, what's the point of that? That's not politics. And then these people end up in the White House 4 or 5 years later.
Right.
I mean, honestly, this is the dilemma that we deal with. I mean, there's a couple of fascinating things about this. One is you can track this through Alex Jones, promoted it for a while. I mean, for all we know, Q is just some guy who started on 4chan who wanted to see if people would believe this, like other fake news stories that we've heard. And the other element that's sort of fascinating is that we have seen, left, right conspiracy theories, but this is for the guy who's in power, and it it's creating a narrative. I mean, there's that stat out today, I think, by the Washington Post that the president has told something like 4,000 lies or something like this. So this whole narrative is really only different in its quality, right? Or you know, it's just a more interesting version of what the president is telling us.
That's a great point, Will. And there's also the fact that people are getting their information, being told at the rally by the president all the time, don't read the New York Times, don't read the Washington Post, don't listen to, you know, this, that. Like, there's nowhere to get your information. Listen to me and anyone that believes in me. And so you choke off one information source, and this is what you get.
Absolutely. I mean, people who believe in QAnon, I mean, if you really believe in it, I mean, you're completely unmoored from what's actually going on in the world. And so this is kind of the culmination of decades of Republican attacks on the media and on independent sources of truth, and of course, the president himself attacking it. And so you end up with these very dangerous situations, like, as you mentioned, this man at the Hoover Dam.
Well, and you also got a situation in which the platforms, once again, are aiding this. Here's when users search for Tom Hanks on YouTube, the top 5 videos all accused Hanks of being a pedophile, Sam. Like, this stuff, it starts at the margins, but if you're some person who just searches for Tom Hanks on YouTube, the next thing you know, you're watching one of these videos.
Yeah, I mean, look, and you've hit the nail on the head in terms of the right-wing echo chamber, and it goes a lot of strange places. Like I said, Alex Jones was promoting this for a long time with Jerome Corsi who has been well known in terms of swift boating, John Kerry, and then at one point when they realized they were losing the control of the narrative, they started saying that QAnon had actually been overtaken by, I guess, internal spies who were starting to spread disinformation. I mean, it's all part of a narrative, and there's a lot of money to be made with this stuff.
That's the other thing.
You know, Alex Jones is making hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions of dollars a year, off of his various different platforms, and that's pretty compelling.
I have to say, like, this has been a sort of the margins of my consciousness. I've sort of seeing that at the rally last night was like kind of a shocking and arresting moment. I really have to say, like, there's the president, and like it would be like if Barack Obama were up there with like a bunch of people being like Google 9/11 truth, like, and like that would be pretty shocking. And that's sort of what we got last night. Sam Seder, Will Sommer, thanks for joining me. Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me, or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.